Should be back. I'm going to take a minute. Well, I'll load up out there to see how the quality of the stream is when the game is running. Thank you for sticking around. I'm always going to expect a certain amount of stutter while the game is loading because most of the stuff that I play I still keep on my hard drive, which is probably not a best practice if you're a streamer, but it's what I'm doing. The real question though is what happens while I'm in the game and playing. So I'm not going to spend too much time testing the sort of testing the different angles and all of that. Now is maybe not a bad time to bring it up because, I don't know, as far as YouTube's concerned, like this is going to count as a separate video. It's still the same night, but this is a key for the game that I was given by Miklos, the developer, for promotional purposes. So I've said this a couple of times, you know, I tend to play stuff because I'm interested in it, because I like it. But it is important to sort of disclose those kinds of interests and the stuff that's been given. And yeah, exactly. You know, you can't have an opinion anymore. You need to disclose it. But no, I think so. I felt stronger about this after realizing. So here's the thing. There is actually a named streamer, and I'm not going to say who it is because I know, like, I do occasionally drop the habit and like name names and stuff like that, but generally I try to make it so that if it's something positive to say, I'll name the broadcaster, and then if it's generally something negative, unless there's really clearly a benefit to saying who it is, I think it's useful to just talk about the behavior and the principle. And I think the reason why there's a value in coming up with that distinction is that, you know, we should be a little bit more concerned with what the proper behavior is, as opposed to necessarily trying to put together some sort of a mob to find that one person. Okay, so I am getting an encoding overload message again, which worries me a little bit. We'll see whether or not it persists, but yeah, there's this named streamer, and it's actually somebody who wound up being put into a video game. But it also happened to be that there was a storefront for this particular game. Now, this broadcaster, I know because I also had worked with this storefront, was paid a fairly significant amount of money to be one of these figures on it. So again, this is like somebody who's put into a game, someone who is like a curator, like a name on their site, is paid for this relationship, very, very frequently talks about how good this thing is. But I don't hear them disclosing any of these contracts or any of these agreements that they have. And I mean, this is, first of all, somebody who clearly has a much bigger platform and will probably more likely have people follow through with what they do. What's also important to remember is that the storefront that I'm specifically talking about is one that tried to not pay me money that was owed. Actually took money from developers, saying that this was this was sort of the fee for the influencer outreach. And the money was taken from the developers, but they, for a very long time, were refusing to pay me. It actually took a considerable amount of effort and a little bit of nudging from some of those developers to finally make it work out. And even then, they did something rather underhanded and unfortunate on that sort of dismount. So, to be honest, now, I mean, again, like, in fairness, this does mean that I have an axe to grind with that particular storefront. But, you know, I think it's fair to say that this statement about, you know, how vastly superior this particular storefront is, and maybe going above and beyond about how it is the superior option for gaming and such, I don't know, based on that individual experience, I do actually think this is one of these cases I would feel a lot better knowing that that broadcaster is fitting their... And I mean, they're American so far as I can tell, so they actually have a requirement from the... I think it's the FTC? I could be wrong on the organizing body for that, but... if they're based where I think they are, they actually should be... Like, they have an obligation to disclose that. So the thing is like, I'm a very small fish. I probably over-disclose, to be honest. But given this context, I think it's pretty clear why I think it's better to over-disclose than under-disclose on this sort of stuff. Because I'll honestly say, like, in the case of what that broadcaster's doing, just because the connections are so close and because there is so clearly a... there's so clearly a set of sort of overt recommendations, and the fact that this very cozy and lucrative relationship for this broadcaster is actually a factor determining what they're recommending. And again, that's not to say that they don't genuinely enjoy the storefront. That could be the reason why they partnered with them, right? I don't know the contents of their head, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are going, all in on this particular storefront probably should know that broadcaster's been paid a fairly considerable sum to say what he said. And yeah, in the grand scheme of things, so I apparently just wasted time trying to fix the stream. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I can't control what other people do. I can control what I do. And, I think it's not that big of an interruption to the stream to say, hey, just so you know, I was given a copy of this game for promotional purposes. I've not been asked to say anything, but you may want to know that I've not parted money. I'm parting with time and, a slot for covering stuff that I would otherwise be streaming. And I think that's the right way to do it, right? Just because you like Monster Energy, and Monster Energy tastes great, is less filling, and gives you tons of Monster Energy. In fact, you just have a can of Monster Energy right here. Let me just crack open this Monster Energy. Just because I like Monster Energy doesn't mean I'm promoting Monster Energy. But your sponsorship was with Red Bull. What are you doing, man? Well, I say man. You could be milady, but... Roxanne seems like a man. Or a monsieur. A monsieur or a milady. So I can't recall if you get oxygen on civilized planets or not. Okay, let's explore the city. Life here is culturally isolated from the organization, and our exchanges with the locals are pleasant. We become too complacent, however. They come to understand the value of the technology we possess. They invite us to a grand celebration during which they send spies to hack into our databases. During the process, perhaps hoping to cover their tracks, they erase technical blueprints. Well, I mean... that sucks, but we did get rid of the Tau States. Now, okay. I have complicated feelings about this, because we do lose morale for booting people, but I can finally sort of distribute out the skills a little bit better. So we've got 2 engineering, 3 Xeno. So I should switch out for a survivor. So sorry, Namu. And we'll get our Tau stasis drive back. I want to keep the Space Cat. I don't know what I think I'm accomplishing by hoarding all this stuff, so you're drinking Canadian dry zero sugar ginger ale. Oh, so you are a milady. Yeah, no, I figured as much. I don't even actually think that. It's just, you know, I have this tendency to be reflexively horrible. So, if you do something well, you gotta lean into it. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm bad. This is actually why I really like stuff like what Destiny and Doom and like the new Dooms, like what all these other games do to get past my hoarding tendencies. So, yeah, like the way grenades work in the new Doom is it's on a timer. So, and it's funny, right? Because like most I'm pretty sure most level designers have roughly an idea about how, like, you know, however many seconds or minutes between picking up a given item it's going to take when navigating through a level. I mean, they get to watch people play it, right? But even though it may be an, like, the design wise, they may be equivalent to putting a grenade on a timer as opposed to putting a grenade as an inventory item. One makes me feel like I'm losing something, whereas the other, it feels like I'm losing something by not using it. And so as a consequence, with modern design, I'm more inclined to I'm more inclined to use the limited resources, or resources that were previously limited, than when they're given to me as inventory items. And like, I hate that I can logically understand why my behavior is so irrational, and yet I still do it, right? Like, okay, let's say I don't need to get too fancy about it. I think just these'll do fine. We'll recycle these for the oxygen. We'll still land on the garden planet though. I am sorry about the decline in quality. I'm hoping this gets solved for the next stream, but it may even be something that's just specific to out there. Either way, I don't have a. Either way, I don't have a. Yeah, I don't have an immediate solution for it, and it looks like we're close to the end. So we'll work with what we've got.
Equipment damaged.
I'll get right on that. Oh wow, I can actually head straight to the Archon HQ. Let's fuel up first. Just in case. We are approached by a rounded spacecraft belonging to an unfamiliar civilization. Via a computerized message, it tells us that it will supply us with fuel if we pay the price. But what is the price? We don't understand. How do we respond to such a singular proposition? Well, given the fact that we're already in a system that can give us fuel, no. Without more information, accepting this offer would be foolish. We disengage as quickly as possible, not even bothering to send word of our refusal to the strange ship. This game does have a tendency to kick me in the nuts, so even if it wasn't a fuel-rich system, I probably would not have taken the offer. My God, I went down to 1 frame a second for a second. Man, this is painful. Okay. Archon HQ, let's do this. Achievement unlocked in the Lion's Den. No signs of life. It's as though everyone left at once. A mass evacuation would leave signs. Lots of them. Could the God Cubes have just erased everyone? I can't believe the Archon could be exterminated so easily. Let's not stay here too long. I have a bad feeling. You're not the only one, officer. As soon as we find information on the God Cubes, we're leaving. And let's start looking. There's no benefit to me drilling right now, so let's just go on the expedition. Alpha Anomaly, there are many laboratories and military encampments to search here. I've not seen an Avengers movie, so sorry, the reference is lost on me. Sorry, I'm gonna back out for a second here and see. I wanted to see if it could give me any indication about information that it needed, but... So we'll definitely bring along a xenolinguist. And this seems kind of silly, but... Oh wait, no, yeah, I'm actually gonna bring Pagustan. No, actually I'm not. Ah, no, they've got enough. Yeah, I will bring Pagustan. thought they were the platonic solids you all played your nerdy role-playing games with. You would gasp and call me a heathen, but having no interest in superheroes movie is way valid. Granted, I enjoy them for their ridiculousness. Okay, so I've seen the first two Iron Man movies. One thing that's kept me from watching more Marvel stuff is that I just didn't keep up with them. I didn't really feel... So, like, I didn't appreciate that Iron Man was, like, part of this large cinematic universe that they were making. And, you know, I kind of went to see them because people were telling me to sort of see them. And, you know, I didn't dislike them, right? I don't remember them that much, but the thing is that I'm less inclined to watch them now because I feel like I haven't done the homework. Like, I'm kind of worried that the movies aren't going to make any sense to me because I've not seen, like, the other 50, you know, films prior. And I suspect they're probably built to be understandable in that way. But the one thing that I do get the impression of, like, I have seen a few of the action scenes from them, which kind of seems to be, like, the point of those movies. They don't entirely do it for me. Like, I don't want to say they're boring because they're, you know, like, clearly it's superior to anything I've ever worked on. But they don't exactly grip me, and I'm not entirely sure it's because it's divorced of context. I think they're just very settled in the kind of movie that they want to be, and that is clearly something that is appealing to a very large number of people, but probably isn't for me. But I think it's also fair to say, and this is partly COVID, but I think this is also just partly my own behaviors, I've actually probably been watching fewer movies than I used to in general. So I think the last thing I saw in theaters was Tenet, which I actually quite liked. And I saw Dunkirk. So apparently I just watched Christopher Nolan movies. And that was not intentionally supposed to just be only Christopher Nolan movies. But yeah, Tenet and Dunkirk I saw in theaters. I kind of want to watch Top Gun Maverick because somebody recommended that to me. But I may or may not get around to it. What are some of the other things that I've seen? In fairness, too, there isn't a movie theater all that close to where I live, and I tend to walk everywhere, so I'm probably looking at about a 90-minute walk one way to go to the movie theater. I mean, again, I can take public transit, but it's nice to walk. So, yeah, it's just... I've had a little bit less reason to go to the movies, and so when I do go to the movies, I tend to want to go and see something special. Oh, sorry, I forgot a really important one. The Death of Stalin, which I actually had a really good time watching. That was another one that I went and saw in theaters. All right. So given the fact that we landed on the empty planet... makes me think that there's going to be multiple parts to this final encounter. Contrary to what we thought, the planet of the Archon was well organized. At the edge of the main roads are immense settlements constructed from a multitude of tents, all different colors. Each settlement is arranged around several water sources and stacks of food crates. In the middle of a plaza, we even spy some equipment designed for children, manufactured with salvage materials. Search the tents. The tents are not all alike. Some of them are very big, others quite small and cozy, while some have been engulfed by plants grown from within. They all appear comfortable in their own ways. These sights lead us to believe that each inhabitant is given housing appropriate to their species. Algren says they are all built to be unto themselves, except for the big ones like Infinity War. That one takes from the build-up. I have always been a fan of the comics, so drag me in. Yeah, so I don't dislike comics. I'm largely unfamiliar with comics. And the comics that I have read tend to be... like, they tend to be sort of their own... sort of like standalone thing. So I've read, and like in fairness, like some of this stuff, like I realize I'm realizing that they're like old by the time I get into them, but you know, whatever. I'm reading them at the time I'm reading them, right? I can't help. Well, I can sort of help, but I'm gonna engage with stuff when I do. So like Alan Moore, obviously an incredibly gifted writer. So I've read some League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is a really a good idea for a series. So that's a joy to read. I've not read all of them, but I've read quite a few of them. I've read Preacher, which I thought was really interesting. I think actually I've read The Boys. I think I've read all of The Boys now too. It definitely felt like what I read was a conclusion. So I am somewhat intrigued by the reaction to the Prime series, because they definitely seem to try, like, to be going for this, oh god, can they really show this on television sort of stuff, but it is actually quite tame compared to the source material. And it's really interesting to see how they choose, like, what they decide to leave in and what they decide to not show. Maybe I just have a very warped sense of what is quote-unquote appropriate or interesting about those series. Oh yeah, I've actually seen a little bit of The Preacher. It's very different from the comics, but I love the moment when Star, like the moment where the scene where Star is like joining, what is it, the Grail, I think is the name of the organization. Like, that's not in the comics, but that's a really good little sequence where he has to wrestle, like, the guy. It's like, wait, what are you doing? What does it look like? I haven't seen the finale though, but yeah, that's definitely different. I quite like the comic, but they're very different. Very different. I've read Transmetropolitan, which I also quite like that one. For the Alan Moore stuff, so I've read From Hell, a couple issues of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I've read Lost Girls, which is certainly very uncharacteristic for me. I'm not entirely sure that not entirely sure it was for me, but it's, I at least think I kind of got what he was trying to do with it. Oh, Promethea. I really liked Promethea. Especially because it was one of the better ways that I could sort of come to grips with some of my friends who, to put it in diplomatic terms, are quote-unquote more spiritual than me. I thought Promethea was a really good way of sort of building that bridge of understanding. And I just think it's a good yarn, too. Like, I probably would have a very different perspective on Cultist Simulator if I hadn't read Promethea, now that I think of it. What are some of the other comics that I've read? Transmet, Preacher, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, From Hell. Oh, Watchmen, of course. I think Watchmen was like one of the first Alan Moore things that I read. Watchmen is really something else. Hang on. I got a stack of the stuff that I own. Yeah, that was it. I don't know why I thought I had more. Oh, I remember why. Because there's Alan Moore's also written something about writing, and it looks like a comic book. But yeah, so I mean, like, that's not a. I don't like. It would be wrong for me to say that I'm unfamiliar with comics, right? I think probably, some of the names that that are behind those titles. So you've got Garth Ennis, you've got Alan Moore, you've got Warren Ellis. These are pretty well known. Oh, sorry, I've also read what's the Batman one that Killing Joke, I think, but I haven't like read any other Batman comics. But yeah, so like these are reasonably well known and I think rather well respected names in comics. So it would be wrong for me to say I'm unfamiliar with the format, but with that in mind, I think it's also fair to say that I have a very narrow view of the medium, and I'm not opposed to learning more. Actually, Johnny Big Time brought my attention to a really interesting idea. So actually, this is one thing I really like, is that it does feel like that format lets people get very, very creative. Because of course, like, it's a little bit like, so like you can compare it to a video. So Takri, gave a wonderful suggestion of a movie. Sorry to bring it up again, but Glorious. And as far as a script is concerned, one of the things that works tremendously well in Glorious's favor is that it basically takes place in one location. Like, the total number of locations you need to shoot in, probably about 3 or 4. Because, you've got a couple driving scenes to do, you've got a couple of apartment scenes to do, you may want an exterior, and then the main location is probably on a soundstage somewhere. So, in practice, you've probably got 3 or 4 locations as far as like production is concerned, but the bulk of the story takes place in one room. And like this is heaven for a budget. If you could confine a movie to one place, you are already in a massive advantage. So like 12 Angry Men is another example of just an absolute, like, a producer's dream as far as expenditure is concerned. And then on the other angle, like at the other end of the spectrum, you've got like old style James Bond, where it's just like globetrotting and, action scenes and stars and, just that stuff is going to cost money. So, the fact that a movie needs to actually be like shot, that it needs to take place in a physical location, even if you are using green screens, like it has to be shot somewhere. And, yes, green screens are more expensive than, going out and shooting on Mars. But you do still need to pay all of the visual effects artists and, all the people who are going to be making the stuff that, that goes into those digital environments. So, there is a certain type of story that works well for movies, and there's a certain cost that's being imposed. So, and that's going to affect certain choices. In a comic book, you could actually have a dialogue scene take place in outer space, and it costs absolutely nothing more than having that scene take place in a kitchen. So, even if, so like, let's say that this story takes place on some kind of a space station. Even the decision to say, okay, this is just a regular dialogue scene, it's sort of more of an intermediate scene to a bigger moment. And you say, well, we wrote this scene for outer space. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's really not that important. Can't we just set it in the kitchen? And the kitchen is still going to be a less expensive choice because you've got, you know, I'm assuming the existence of a kitchen or a hallway or just like a set that you already have. The outer space part is going to involve some kind of trick to make it seem like it's in outer space. And so there's always going to be that question about whether or not it's actually worth the effort that you put in. And you just simply see those choices being made in screenplays all the time. It's difficult to detect because you you only ever get to see what's on the screen. And if you're reading a script, you only ever get to see what's in the script. And chances are the people writing the script are familiar with the conventions of, you know, the media that they're working in. So, you know, generally if you make a screenplay, you're going to make certain decisions that reflect how screenplays work as opposed to other things. For instance, you're screwing up if you write words cannot describe in a screenplay. That is the one job you have as a screenwriter, is to describe what is seen. But again, contrast that with a comic book. Well, you know, you have there's still limitations, right? You've got a certain number of panels to work with, and yes, you get to kind of decide how you distribute them. But there's also a practical matter of how many words you include. Right? The more words you include in terms of things that are said or things that are written in blocks inside the panels, the less the room there is for the images, which are equally, if not more important to the reader. So, you know, my style of speaking, you know, my monologue, my system talk is not necessarily something that's going to translate well to a comic book format. But it does carry with it the advantage that if you want to go all over the place, you could go insane and decide that every panel in your comic is going to take place in a different country, and you are really spending no more on it than if you have something located inside of a kitchen. And if you would, also if you want, it's not all that much more difficult to have a cast of aliens. So, if you were to make a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy comic book, you do not need to wonder about the representation of Zaphod Beeblebrox. He is perfectly allowed to have two heads as long as you have an artist that is capable of drawing, a person with two heads. If you're making a film, now you have a question. Do we do an animatronic head? Do we do it, digitally? How do we make this thing not look hokey? And so you have a different set of advantages, and you're going to be more inclined to put in certain types of characters and make certain choices in the stories that you tell. And then video games, you have sort of an interesting hybrid between these two things. So I suppose you could sort of say, like, your choice of setting, the world's your oyster. You can make it take place in space. You can make it take place in history. You can make it take place, like 12 minutes takes place in 2 or 3 rooms. But I think probably the determining factor is less about where you set it, so much as how much you change. Because I think if you wind up doing lots of changes, that means you have to make a number of other art assets. So, for instance, if you let's say you make a Dune game, right? If you do a Dune game that takes place entirely on Arrakis, you'll have a certain set of textures and things that you're just going to find in the area. Or I guess it's Arrakis. Anyways, but does anybody know what's Dune about? Could anybody tell me what Dune is about? But yeah, as long as you've got enough of your desert assets handled, you're in pretty good shape. If, on the other hand, you want your Dune game to take place in sort of the larger empire, if you want to be experiencing the worlds of these different houses, and if you want to be getting into the particulars or the intrigues of this much larger political structure, Well, you've now potentially, and actually very likely, have committed your team to creating a lot more than what they had previously signed up for. Seeing as there's nothing I can do to save my frame rates, I'm going to take a second here and open up. Oh, I've lost it. Okay, I'll find some. I've got something to send to you. Got something to send to you on Twitter when I wrap up the stream. But also, like, this sort of stuff I actually find really interesting because, you know, like, in the hands of very good storytellers or game designers or that, this stuff feels very natural, and you don't really notice the restriction in terms of you know, where certain stories take place, for instance. We're getting close to losing Sergei, so I may have to... Like, I'm really not inclined to use up the health until I the Xenolinguist abilities until I absolutely have to, but... I'm glad you're still around, Vanguard Master. It looks like we're having a few technical problems on this end, but we should be able to make it through to the end. Alright, our attention is attracted by a remote area made of several strange buildings in the middle of a vast clearing. We enter cautiously, realizing that it is a research center of some kind. The place has been built to accommodate at least 100 people. It seems the object of study is mainly the God Cubes. Hallways split off into dissection rooms and laboratories. At the end, a door labeled Break Room stops us from going any further. Inspect the laboratories. Alright, let's go Pakistan. Access codes prevent us from opening the laboratory doors. Fortunately, our engineer knows how to hack the keypads, making it possible for us to enter. The laboratories are filled with technologically advanced machines, most of which are still working and seem to be awaiting instructions. After closer inspection, we think they're trying to decipher very complex lines of code. It seems the researchers thought they'd found the code that made it possible for the God Cubes to analyze and comprehend life itself. Alright. So it looks like it's going to force me past another threatening area. Now, I'm going to roll the dice because I know with Sergei I can resurrect him with Omega if it really comes down to it. Okay, cool. That gamble paid off. Yeah, it's only, I had to reset the stream, but it didn't seem to fix anything on this end. I'm hoping it's just a problem with out there, and not a sign of future problems, but we will see. The other thing is that, you know, I may not actually finish out there tonight. It sounds mean to say I'm hoping we do, but it's mostly just because, you know, like, it feels like we're getting close to an end, so I wanted to see if, you know, like, assuming that we were close to the end, it's good to just tie it off on a proper session. Several military bases flank the residential areas. The production of weapons, of munitions is prohibited, so we have some difficulty working out the purpose behind some of the objects found in the weapons lockers. We find several maps that detail the Archon's expansion throughout the galaxy. There are sealed cabinets that seem to contain important files. We also come across a few digital vision helmets. They would be handy if they were in our size. Hack the digital vision helmets. We'll use Pagistan for that again. Or actually, no, this time we'll use Sergei. Thanks to our engineer skills, we managed to extract the last data recorded on the digital helmets. We see them through the eyes of the soldiers who were wearing them, apparently on a mission to a civilized planet. The soldiers are in the process of leading civilians into ships. Everything seems to be going smoothly when suddenly, midway down the long queue, an alien transcends. A bright flash blinds us, and then all that remains where the alien stood is a strange pulsating energy. Everyone in the vicinity begins cheering. Moments later, a song is started and picked up by others. Without warning, the Archon arrives. It announces that this is the only way that they can free themselves from the yoke of the God Cubes. Without the Archon, that transcended alien would already be dead. Okay, I'm gonna guess that there's nothing for me here, so... Oh, God. Alright, it's not Sergei, so... The aim is to try and use as many of my resources before... Like, I want to try and finish off the expedition before I start doing my healing and stuff. Alright, the Archon's tent. Yeah, exactly. We arrive in front of the immense ochre tent, in the roof of which is supported by big black poles. In the middle, there is a large fireplace with a comfortable wood fire still burning within it. Maps of the galaxy are scattered across several tables and the ground, and in one corner a hologram that replays encyclopedia entries of all the identified races of the galaxy. A working radio rests atop a large glass jar filled with grains of black sand. A little further in, we spot a furnished corner. It is cozy, indeed with cushions arranged for sitting or kicking back. Here, the ground is shining and resembles a mirror. We are undoubtedly in the Archon's quarters. Listen to the radio. It is difficult to understand everything said on the radio, as it is regularly switching between stations. It seems to be searching for a specific frequency. Tucked under the radio, we find a slip of actual paper, on which the words, "Find the Greater Aleph," have been scrawled.
Oh.
The Archon was laying the foundations of a new kind of civilization.
Oh.
We can't deny its project had scope. I don't understand. The Archon was destroying anyone who wouldn't agree to join it, but taking excellent care of others. A tyrant's promise: be protected or die. Who are we to talk? We've reawakened the God Cubes, tyrants over every civilization everywhere. The Archon. But how? I am not so easily destroyed. Regrettable that I cannot say the same about your honor. You released the God Cubes. And why? To eliminate an enemy that wouldn't even kill you? Not only have you failed in your original endeavor, now you've added millions to your death toll. A breathtaking achievement, to be sure. How did you escape the God Cubes? You of all people should have the mark. I have always had the mark, Nyx. Unlike you, my existence has long been a relentless struggle for survival. Your species will never understand. You arrived in your arcs and spaceships, thinking the universe would bend to your will. The God Cubes, the things they did. I think we've made a terrible mistake. Terrible, yes, but not irreparable. You hold great value, Nyx. You deserve better than to die opposing me. That's why I want to help. Help us? Ally with us? We have a common enemy. Fighting the God Cubes alone would be futile. Captain, the God Cubes could wipe out all life in the galaxy. The Archon is the only one who has ever defeated them. We can't do this alone. You're right, Sergei. As painful as it is to admit, we need the Archon's help. Know this, Archon. I take no pleasure in cooperating with you. And so yesterday's enemies become tomorrow's allies. We should return to the ship. We have lots to do. Okay. So I could actually just remote control the ship back, but what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna heal my people up. At least to like a basic level. And I am gonna take advantage of that to do a little exploration. Does that really get me where I need to go? I don't think so. Ooh. I should probably be tending to these figures first. I've not gotten that far into Minecraft. There's the local game dev collective has a sort of a private server, which I wish I spent more time on, but I don't know. Like, there's just so much stuff to do. Like, there's always, you know, you got to decide how you're going to spend your time, and there's tons of things that I would love to do, but I try to keep as focused as I can. Anyways. Let's take stock of what we know. The Archon was trying to make contact with a greater Aleph. The coordinates on one side of the Archon's ships led to the Atlas, which stores all the information in the universe. But it won't disclose anything more about the greater Aleph, other than that its goal is to transcend this existence. I did find another lead, the Whispers. Historically, the Alephs have always maintained relations with Whisperers. They like to listen to their songs. Surely they will know where to find this greater Aleph. Officer, what do you think? Never thought I'd say this, but I think we should listen to it. I've heard rumors about the Whisperers, and going to see them seems like our best chance. They live in a certain gas giants. Newton can help us find them. Searching. Results. I have marked a specific gaseous planet on your map. My data includes the chances of finding Whisperers at this location is relatively high. If the Whisperers lead us to the greater Aleph, that means the Archon is on our side. When I give my word, I keep it. It's you humans who break promises as a matter of course. We'll see. Alright, let's see how far the gas giant of Whispers is. 83 light years. I think I'm gonna take a quick trip on the rocky planet. There's a blue giant nearby, so I can refuel there. This is totally off topic, but while we are on our way to the next event, is anybody reading anything interesting? I took a trip to the library and I got a few goodies for myself. Unfortunately, I haven't picked up a book in 2 months. Been meaning to get back into it. Excuse me. Do you have something in particular that you are looking forward to reading, Vanguard Master? Because like I definitely know the feeling. One thing I've been forcing myself to do is actually read more fiction lately. So this is why I've been talking about short stories a little bit more. But thank you. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why I suddenly start randomly sneezing during the broadcast, but it's really bad.
Fuel tank low.
Feels a little wasteful, but I am gonna hop to the next planet.
Equipment damaged.
So one thing I could technically do if I felt that I needed to make more progress speed-wise, I could just make a black hole and do a big jump, but I think I've got enough range on my I think I've got enough range on my new ship that nope. Well, I'll try it the old-fashioned way. Trying to finish Wheel of Time. You have a couple books left in the series. After that, you're really looking forward to rereading a series called The Symphony of Ages. I've not heard of The Symphony of Ages. What's, do you mind if I ask what that's about? So it is warning me about oxygen, but I do have sort of a get out of jail more or less free card for that if I do run into problems. So not interested in stopping by. Yeah, this all counts as unknown. So I think what I'm just going to do is take big leaps and hope I get lucky with a planet.
Oxygen low.
Oh, interesting. It is impossible to progress into the system. At the outer edge of the star's gravitational field, a powerful force field bars any entry. We locate an opening of sorts, but it is some kind of alien tunnel maintained by an unfamiliar species. If we try to proceed, what will we find? We could pretend to be employees, pay the tax, or try to leave the area. These seem to be the same, so we'll pay the tax. Oh, come on, guys.
Oxygen low.
I'll still try and get the Omega. At this point, I think it makes as much sense for me to visit the rocky planet as well, so I'll try and make this expedition a quick one. Main protagonist is a young lady. She gets abducted by two assassins, a Furbolg and a half-human, half-Furbolg. She does not realize she is being kidnapped. They end up traversing the planet by traveling alone, along the roots of a great tree. In the meantime, some timey-wimey stuff happens, and I won't go into any more detail so as not to spoil anything. There is a dragon as a love interest for her, and some very interesting politicking going on once they emerge on the other side. A Furbolg is Chewbacca. Or like Chewbacca. I'm curious, and dragons can shapeshift into human form. Yeah. To be clear, this isn't a donkey and dragon love story type thing.
Yeah.
Right, I need to bring a survivor. I'm also, I mean, partly what this comes down to too is I'm just curious how people find the things that they're interested in. Like, my tendency has always been to check out stuff that's been recommended to me or tends to have like a good reputation that I haven't checked out. So this is one of the reasons why I checked out The Time Machine, because, you know, I kind of feel like H.G. Wells is one of those names you keep hearing. I can't actually think of an H.G. Wells story that I've read. Well, actually, maybe War of the Worlds? But, you know, like, Time Machine's not a very long book, and it's actually quite good. So we come across large raised stones, the only remaining testament to a millennial cult that aligned themselves with celestial bodies. They believe that such heavenly bodies made decisions about a now vanished civilization. We pause to reflect on the past, so we can analyze the murals, study the external garden, or ignore the location entirely. Let's study the external garden. Okay. I didn't exactly need the map information because we're gonna, you know, we're gonna explore no matter what, but at least I can prioritize this location so then I know, you know, what abilities I can give up. You know, Furbolgs from D&D, which are more like cow people. All right. I want both of you to get your scientific calculators out. We'll settle this the old way. Honestly, at this... Our expedition detects a large metallic mass not far from our current location. It could prove useful for the ship. As we draw close enough to see it, we're amazed to find a gigantic robot curled up as if asleep. What civilization could have built such a Titan, and why? Examine the Titan. Our engineer looks the machine over. They quickly discover that it's still active. Dismantling it would have activated a security subroutine and roused the Titan. Having uncovered this, they short-circuit the mechanism, leaving us free to loot the Colossus. Well, I'm always happy for more minerals. Like I said, I don't want to throw everything into recovering my resources, but it would be nice to know that I have enough in reserves to cover any repairs if they should be required. Alright, looks like they do want me to take some kind of damage to be able to do the objective, so... We arrive in a village. The population is welcoming, yet wary. We are very keen to learn about their guardian god, a simple stone statue that we suspect is full of Omega. We are not allowed to approach the object until we go through the clan's ritual trials. We could take part, but the village inhabitants won't describe what the trials entail. Send the survivalists to tackle the trials. The trials are formidable. First, our survivalist is tattooed using Omega, an incredibly painful process. Second, they are told to hunt down a particularly elusive predator, which they manage after 2 nights of tracking. Finally, they must spend an entire night alone meditating before the clan's stone god. During this trial, they spend the dark hours quietly siphoning the Omega contained within the figure. We leave at dawn, magnificent cargo in tow. So the Omega is probably the real catch out of this this run, but we are walking away with a minimum of 26 minerals, and I believe we still have a village that we can visit. So yeah, actually there's a couple things that could work for us here. You go planet us, you want? Us want combat you! Us want go planet. The alien silently inspects our group, looks at the sky for a moment, concentrate, and then waits in front of us. So in this case, we'll take as many minerals and plants as we can. I think we can increase our cobalt. And there's no reason for me to recruit because we're already at capacity. Alright, so I feel like this is a case where the UN needs to get involved. I also feel like in the same conference we need to work out some kind of an international convention as to what the flavor of red is. Because I don't think anybody should have to have the experience where you're looking forward to some kind of like strawberry candy and it winds up being cinnamon. Or like you want cinnamon and it winds up being apple. Or maybe you want apple and it winds up being raspberry. Surely we should have figured this out by now. So we're gonna have an international convention on the flavor of red and the definition of furbolgs or firbolgs. Okay. On that note, I'm actually feeling a little woozy, so I may wind up going for yet another tea. But let's see if I can at least make it to the gas giant. I would have liked some platinum, but actually that's not a bad little bundle for us. And then plants. Okay, so we've got, well, this is a no-brainer. Okay, so next place I'm going to go is actually the Rocky Planet, and that's because I know I have enough fuel to be able to make it to the gas giant and mine that out. But in the case of the Rocky Planet, this is a chance for us to potentially get some platinum. Again, we don't know what we're up against. Like, it's possible that we will have quite a few more adventures following our main goals. So in this case, I do want to make sure that I'm as stocked as I can be for, you know, any potential events. That was a bit of a letdown. First novel you read was Marlfox, part of the Redwall series. For those who don't know it, it's a young adult youth series where the characters are anthropomorphic animals, good guys being mice, hares, squirrels, bad guys being rats, foxes, and other vermin, as they're classified in the books. Then you continued on to Lord of the Rings, which you read about 6 times, and then moved on to another series by Mercedes Lackey called Legends of Valdemar, which I think has about 30 plus books. Mercedes Lackey is actually a name that I heard because I worked in a bookstore for a very, very short period of time. And that was something that... So there's 2 things I remember about one of my coworkers, which was she always wanted to win the... like the customer service exercises. So like I'm sure most of you have had this experience where, like, you know, you simulate you simulate a customer service experience and you like the usual thing is, like, you'll do one version where it's just somebody looking for something, and then, you know, you've got a situation, you know, after you do that, you do a situation where, you know, maybe the person you're interacting with is a bit cross. You know, like it's you have to do some sort of improvement. By the way, I think I finally understand how these connections wind up working. So I think if you do an adjacency for so was it hydrogen? So I think if I put the ultra probe beside the hydrogen probe, I would get like a bonus. What are some of the others here? Yeah, so if I put the supraconductor where the telescope is, I mean, I might be able to do it with what I've got, but clearly I do not want to be dismantling my high quality items at this point. But yeah, so like, I'm sure you've all like done something like this at a job before. So anyways, the thing that this coworker really wanted to do was, like, when it was her, so, you know, like, my turn to be the jerk customer, and like I kind of act the way that I sort of feel like I act when I'm kind of annoyed, which is like I want a particular objective, and, you know, I am not really necessarily going to give people the benefit of the doubt if I've had to come in multiple times over the same issue. But in the end, I also sort of recognize that I've got a finite amount of time, and that there's not necessarily a lot of like, who wants to spend their time in a bookstore of all places? Like, are you really going to spend like 2.5 hours like ripping into someone because they misplaced your order or whatever? Like, you know, some proportionality is worth keeping in mind. So I have an whenever you role play something like that, I find it's useful, like, have an objective in mind, and then the difference in terms of, being a friendly customer or an angry customer is how much leeway you're giving or how much trust you're putting in what the customer service rep is doing. But like the one thing I don't do is I don't set myself up as the completely, unappeasable customer. Like you could offer them 6 free books in the store and they'll be like, no, I want this specific one. But I think you've all probably had a coworker who absolutely, because it's their chance to be in a position of power, they're going to like, it doesn't matter what you say to them, like they're not going to be satisfied. And this coworker was one of those ones. So like, I played the game, I carried on as long as I could. I think eventually the person doing the training, like, eventually just brought the thing to an end. It's like, well, what do you think went wrong? And like, I was just honest about it. I said, it's like, I think because it was an exercise, this was set up so that there could not have been an answer that I would have given that would have satisfied them. I aimed to focus on what the customer needed. I, tried to adapt to the situation, but I think it was very clear by the 4th or 5th item that seemed to come out of nowhere that had you not interrupted this exercise, I would have been helping this customer until this coworker stopped being paid. Which probably did not endear me to the trainer, but it is honest, and I think it's important to call that nonsense out. But I do also know that coworker liked Mercedes Lackey, and I have to work with someone, so I'm gonna try and be nice about their interests and try and support what I can. But needless to say, I was kind of happy I didn't have to put up with shifts with them. Anyways, spends about 1,000 years of story time. After you finished, you were looking around the bookstore for more books, and you very much judge them by their cover. Everybody does. I do not know why the saying says don't judge a book by its cover. It's the only information you have about the book. I'm not going to pull a book off the shelf if it doesn't have an interesting title or an interesting cover, or I haven't had some kind of recommendation. That's when you picked up The Fires of Heaven, which is the 5th book in the Wheel of Time, so you ended up buying the whole series. Symphony of Ages was somewhere in there, but you can't remember when you picked it up. There's also a series called The Covert One, if you're into Jason Bourne type books. And I think there's another space opera series that you cannot think of the name right now. Star Carrier by Ian Douglas. I gotta check out all these Furbog links after the stream. We establish an orbit around a diamond-shaped station that drifts through space. It reflects the light of nearby stars as if covered with aluminum, though it is pockmarked with meteorite damage and its structure has been torn apart like a spider's web. So we'll disassemble the reactors. I'm hoping it's just health points that we have to give up, because I do want the minerals. I don't think I need to go onto the garden world here. I think we're just trying to close the gap as much as we can. Yeah, it's a pretty empty part of space we're heading into. This feels like this offers me a slightly better chance of getting where I need to go. Oh my god. We come across a standard, rather ordinary relay station. While its orbit is unusually wide, we don't take much notice until one of the crew discovers that it doesn't respond to our signals. It appears empty. What could have caused the inhabitants to flee? So we can give up a module blueprint for an abandoned ship. We are already in the ship that kind of the game seems to be indicating we want to stay in, so let's look for stellar coordinates and hope we don't lose too much oxygen and that it doesn't move us backwards like last time. Thank the Maker. Okay, we've got one of each again, so let's do the same trick that we did last time. We'll start by going to the garden world so that we can get some oxygen. I don't even necessarily need to mine anything on it, but we do get a chance to scan, so... So Omega and minerals, just Omega, so yeah. I am debating on skipping some of these expeditions, but if it gives me Omega and minerals, those are like the two things I always want more of, so I gotta go with where the resources are. I don't think there's an advantage to, hang on. I think it's sort of engineering that I need. Yeah.
Oh. Uh-huh.
I feel like I overlooked an exit. Because I don't think you just put a hazard in the corner. Yeah. Ooh, 2 obstacles in a row? I'll take my chances here, thank you. Behind a bright metal Torai gate, we find the disfigured face, vast and sinister, of an ancient unknown god. Here, in the middle of nowhere, a temple was once erected, only to be abandoned by its worshippers. Study the external garden. Okay. I mostly did that so I could avoid losing health. This place is pretty mean in terms of its, hazard placement. Threat death. Love dream? No threat death. The doors of knowledge open to us. The alien just taught us a new word. Alright, as always, we scoop up as many plants and minerals as we can. No real point in picking up any of this stuff. And looks like we don't have any special items that they want, but we can always give them the goods that we... I'm keeping the cats. Okay. Yeah. No! Close enough. I'm not even bothering with recruitment. Like, there's just no way that I'm going to be able to do anything with it, so... okay, so they still want me to go behind... hostile things. Yeah. I think at this point I just need to minimize the number of dangerous crossings. Again, once I get to the biggest one is that it's a three engineering task. So this is kind of why I double up the characters that I bring in, because like sometimes you really are going to run into something that that's a bit of a bear. But just eliminating the main objective opens up so many more possibilities in terms of sort of preserving your characters or otherwise keeping their health up. So we'll be fine though. Like, I'll probably wind up taking a lot of damage on the way back, but we should be able to mitigate the worst of it. Our expedition finally arrives after following readings that indicate the presence of an incredible amount of Omega, so substantial that our engineers thought it was an error. And yet, there it is, a lake of Omega, so large that it must be the residue of a judge architect. As we approach, the surface of the lake comes to life, taking the form of a large black phoenix. Contain the creature. It's nothing more than living mineral, possessing all the same weaknesses as Omega. Our engineer uses a piece of their gear to generate a powerful magnetic field which agitates and repels the beast. It leaves behind a few Omega feathers as it leaves, which we collect before departing ourselves. Alright. Pretty good haul so far. Now the question is, what else can we get on our way out of here? They really like me making me cross dangerous territory. Our readings indicate the presence of a singularity, but our expedition finds nothing at the location. Frustrated, we take a few more steps and suddenly find ourselves in another world. The ground is perfectly smooth, and an ocean of stars glimmer above us. Everything else has disappeared. It doesn't even seem like the same planet. Analyze the nature of this place. Our xenolinguist notices tiny markings on the ground and takes a moment to study them. We appear to be in a labyrinth created by the architects of this surreal place. We follow our companion the length of the labyrinth and find ourselves back on the planet, intact, but not unchanged. We feel that there is something more within us. Well, I'm glad that we're getting all these bonuses to our skills. It's a shame that it's all Sergei's skills, because these do tend to require minerals to be used. Okay, this is gonna get kinda grim, but yeah. Yeah, not our biggest haul, but 37 minerals and 17 plants is definitely a job well done. Ugh, sorry, I'm tired. Mind you, I'm back to going overtime. It's just the fact that I got started at the right hour. That the fact it's before midnight and I'm already kind of an hour and a half over my usual time. That's a weird feeling. A good one though. Like, one thing I have been happy about with getting like a proper bedtime is I'm definitely feeling like I'm feeling better in the morning. I'm feeling like I can do more. Unfortunately, I have found that depending on the work that I'm doing, my actual ability to get work done is like my ability to get work done has been hit or miss. I've actually voluntarily gone into my office a couple of times this week just because I thought it would be a little bit better for my focus. But yeah, I don't know, like, I think it's because, like, I you know, I'm not crazy about owning too many gadgets, but I did actually wind up getting a smartwatch, as, you know, I talked about earlier. And I actually do find that it's been really helpful for me just kind of to keep track of certain things. And I was noticing over the past, like, again, you all know how I was talking about feeling really tired and stuff like that. And if you just look at the measurements, like, it would not be uncommon to have a number of like 3 or 4 hour sleep days. And like, the thing is that I read enough to know the like the consequences, to know the like the cost of like even just missing a couple of hours, a couple of nights in a row. You know, there's not a lot of variation in terms of the studies that have been done on the effects of sleep. But the most insidious thing about it, and this is definitely true in my experience, is that even with, like, let's say 6 hours of sleep or something like that, you really don't feel like you're underperforming. The worst thing that I run into is when I have had a few nights of not sleeping enough. I can have moments where I will stare at a monitor for like an inhumanly long period of time and get nothing done. And by the time I finally snap out of it and realize what's been going on, I actually don't even really acknowledge how much time has passed. And you do that a couple times in a row, and all of a sudden that's like serious time that's getting eaten up doing that. So a little bit like everything else, like it's just kind of a matter of discipline and saying is like, nope, you know, this is the time that I'm doing this thing. You know, there's also little habits too, like just, you know, trying to resist the urge to like have a screen on, you know, at or near bed. I do have the bad habit. I actually think it's not bad to read in bed, but because my light is like, I have to kind of stretch a little bit. I do have a bad tendency to like fall asleep while reading. But the drawback with that is I'll usually be like turning and staring straight at the light. The problem with that is not so much the sleeping part as when it's a little bit closer to the morning, I tend to find that I get up a lot earlier than I should. And it's hard to get back to sleep, but I haven't gotten like a full night's sleep. So I don't know. It's just a matter of like trying to be a little bit more disciplined about this stuff. It's a question of trying to make sure that I recognize when I shirk on some of the stuff that I should be doing, and where I can, you know, I try to correct the behavior that's not helping me out. But yeah, it has been like, I don't know, like the big problem I have is that I definitely work better later in the day and in the evening. And the problem is that the world's really not built, particularly Ottawa, is not built for people like me. Like, it feels like almost everything closes before 6. It's not entirely true, but like, I can remember in Vancouver, like, I'd happily go to like all night, or at the very least like late night coffee places, and it would not be a problem to like order a cup of coffee at like 11 o'clock and just have a place to get some like reading and writing done. There's almost nothing like that. Like, the best you could probably hope for if you wanted like midnight coffee in Ottawa is like a gas station. But it's not like you're gonna sit down and like write something in there. And maybe, I don't know, if I went to diners, but like, I don't know, do I really want to go to a diner for a cup, like, to do that? Especially because, you know, like, I am talking about trying to get a decent amount of sleep. And then, of course, the other drawback is just, you know, if you have a real job that expects you to be in the hours that people normally work, you know, you have certain parameters in terms of when you can go to bed and still get enough sleep. So with all of that in mind, right, like, it's very important to try and recognize when certain things are going to push you over the edge as far as like responsible use of your time. And a lot of that still, again, feels kind of painful because I know that sort of my peak hours are the ones that usually drive me into, you know, into some weird sleeping habits. I do the best that I can. And again, once I get through sort of the big push of work that I have right now, I suspect I'm going to be able to take it a little more easy. But yeah, no worries, Vanguard Master. But I will confess, like, lately, because I've been a bit better at, I don't know, at just, like, getting what I need done. It's really hard for me to decide whether or not I want to switch the flower out here. It's only 3 jumps, so maybe not. But yeah, the one thing that is hopefully gonna help me. Hopefully, the thing that's gonna help me a little bit more with my I don't know, my feeling, my sleep patterns is the fact that, like, feeling good in the morning and like I can get stuff done, because I've been like putting so much emphasis on writing and getting that done. It's actually, this week was the first time that I got writing done like first thing in the morning, as opposed to it being like one of the last things that I do. And Kree knows this, but like I've had times at like hey Gonads. Some of the nights I've been trying to write, like, just because I really don't feel like it, or I'm resisting the urge, like I'm resisting the impulse to write. I've had times where I've been up until like 4:30, like I've wanted to write something at 2, but I've put it off and resisted it so much it's like 4:30 in the morning, and it's just this game of chicken I play with myself as to whether or not I'm going to pass the goal of writing each day, or this is going to be the one where I finally shirk. And because I've definitely told myself I'm not going to skip on the writing, again, I just have an absurd bedtime as a result. So being able to replace that with something like, hey, I feel like I'm going to get stuff done.
Fuel tank low.
And to do some of that writing in the morning, which is like the first time. Well, I guess 4:30 is the morning, but you know what I mean. To be able to do that feels a lot better. I don't think I'm ever going to be a morning person. Oh, nope. But I do at least have some approximation of what it feels like to be a bit better. Yeah, exactly, Decree. I think that's the big one for me. Now, I kind of want to go to this rocky planet, but I'm also looking at what it's going to take me to get to the gas giant of Whispers. So I'm going to jump to the Claudia system instead. I might even jump... yeah, like I don't need to go on any Garden Worlds right now. So we're just shy of what we need for this gas giant of Whispers. We'll head to this next system. The good news is, because we know it's a gas giant... Ooh. Let's disassemble the reactors again. Hopefully we get something good. The silicon will still help us with the oxygen. Actually, carbon we can use to repair the hull as well. But yeah, because we know we're going to a gas giant system, I'm not as worried about collecting fuel. But as it is, we are in a system that lets me collect fuel, so I might as well take advantage of it. The biggest thing I will say, though, like I don't mean to imply a too bad of a work ethic, but I would feel a lot better if most of the stuff I was accomplishing, or that I could feel proud of, was not like traditional workplace stuff, but it was more about my own projects, like whether it was writing or some of the data work that I'm doing in that. It would feel better if I was putting more of that time in myself. But still, you know, even working at the, you know, doing my day job, like that is keeping me in, you know, rent money, food money. It is supporting, you know, my other interests. So, but I am looking forward to getting back to some of my my big projects. After this event, I'm gonna make some more tea. What kind of creatures could live in these gas giants? The pressure, the gravity, the force of the winds. Life can always find a way. For example, there are civilizations that are born and die inside stars, if you can believe it. Impossible. The Whisperers believe that the whole universe is their star, much as we ourselves think the universe is the limit of our reality. You wouldn't understand, Sergei. Your life has been too short and too protected. The things that kept you safe also kept you a prisoner. Enough! I'm sick of your voice. How do we contact the Whisperers, if they're even here? Let's try to send a signal. People Whisperer, give Love Star Iron. People Humans love Greater Aleph or Death Greater Aleph.
Oh.
People Humans love Greater Aleph, Whisperer. People Whisperer, give Star Greater Aleph. I got an achievement, Firelight's Hideout. We must meet the Greater Aleph in order to solve... Okay, so... I'm not 100% clear. Like, I almost wonder if there's, like, something missing from that encounter. But let's keep jumping. I'm refusing to meet them because I need the oxygen. And because of that oxygen, I'm going to do the same thing that I've done before. I am actually going to go to the black hole, just because that can potentially give me a big jump to the...
Oxygen low.
This might give me a... Hello, Momoko Hana.
Oxygen low.
Very good to see you. I don't know if you've talked with Kite recently, but I've noticed he's been active on Steam at least. So I'm glad to know he's out and running about. It's always good to see you. I hope you are having a good morning. Okay, we don't have a lot of oxygen left, but I do have reserves in my ship. So let's try going through the black hole. Oh, actually, that really doesn't do it for me. So I think I'm just gonna... So what I'm gonna do here is we'll just go to the yellow dwarf because we know that that is... Actually, you know what? Let's go to the white dwarf because I know that'll also have fuel. Hey, Yu sorry. I did not... I apologize. When I looked at my screen, I saw Momoko's message, but I did not see yours. I am so sorry. I feel like a big jerk. I was actually gonna ask where Yu Hana was, but then I thought that might be even worse. So that's entirely on me. I'm gonna have to do it in reverse. So this is a little bit different from what I know the two of you usually see me play. This is a little bit more story based, but this one has a little bit less strategy, and I don't get to explain. I don't get to explain why I'm going to, I'm gonna marry everyone or murder everyone. Or sometimes murder the people I married. This one's a little bit more about trying to manage all of my resources. Oop. As you can hear, I'm running low on oxygen. And I think right now we're trying to find someone to help us stop a god. Anyways, we're gonna land by the Alpha Anomaly to try and get the Omega here. And I am going to take a second to put the kettle on so I can have some more tea, because I have a feeling that I'm going to need to drink something in a little bit. So I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, so the reason why we do the order that we've been doing for this system so far is that going on a garden world will bring my oxygen up to 100. So that that fills me up for the time that I need. If I want to mine on a rocky planet, then I can, and then I get to refuel at the gas giant. That's kind of the reason why I do that particular order. Although we can sometimes skip the rocky planet if we need. So, I can't remember what was the challenge. I should have paid attention to that. So we need a xenolinguist. So I pretty much always bring Nyx and Sergey, but because we need a xenolinguist for the challenge, we're going to bring both Ikat Ia and Eruzmame. And as usual, we will take a little time on the expedition just because I find it's more convenient to just avoid the hazards rather than try and heal my way through it, particularly if you lose one of these characters. If you lose Nyx or Sergey, it should be a game over, but you do get the option to resurrect them with the Omega resource. But if you lose a regular crew member, you don't get the chance to resurrect them. You dream? Us dream us, go you good. The doors of knowledge open to us. The alien has just taught us a new word, but we already know all the words. So we'll do trade again. We're going to try and get as many minerals as we can. I'll also add the plants, but it's not as critical to me. Alright, so they'd like the tea sets. Now, I kind of want the tea sets too. Yeah, we'll give them a good deal. And normally I'd be checking out recruitment, but at this point, I've got what I need. So in this case, we're just gonna go and try and find the goodies and go on our way. So again, if I have to cross this in the future, I will. But for now, I'm gonna try and avoid. I'm gonna try and avoid anything that damages my people and see if we can find a way around. And I suspect the strategy is not going to be working when they do the update that they've been talking about, but I got to play the game as it is, not the game that it might be in the future. Kite, my friend, it's very good to see you, and I'm sure you've noticed Yu Hana and Momoko Hana. These are two very lovely chatters who, well, I'm sure you know them very well, but did specifically mention you. And it was actually wonderful because if I recall correctly, both of them got a chance to watch me playing the game Old World. And Old World is very much like some of the stuff that you remember I used to play in terms of just like rulers marrying people and me explaining strategy and things like that. So your sales pitch for my stream is actually really appropriate for that game. Anyways, guys, this is a rare treat for me, and actually it sounds like my kettle's boiling. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit the shout out button for Kite. And I'm gonna put some hot water on some dry leaves, and I will drink the mixture after an appropriate number of minutes. But then I'm gonna tell you about what a great guy Kite is. So I will be back in just a moment. So for those of you who don't know him, Kite is actually somebody that I've known more or less since I started on Twitch. He is an incredibly nice guy, and also possibly the most interesting man in the world. One of the things I can tell you about Kite as a broadcaster is he is one of the best streamers at doing sort of co-op stuff that I've seen. And I say this as somebody who has actually co-cast with some of the people that he's broadcast with, and he just makes it seem so easy to have rapport with people, to be able to, bring out the best in people. But on top of that, Kite's actually just been continuing to show more and more talents. So what I mean by this, so like I can remember I was playing Shadowrun and there was a character, Gaiku, and Kite had mentioned this anime that he likes. I think it was called Tokyo Ghoul, and I wasn't familiar with it, but obviously he was able to share a little bit of his background and kind of show me some other things that were that were interesting and relevant to what was being talked about. But all of these are currently related to streaming. On top of that, the reason why I say that he's got additional talents is that he's also been learning to play the piano. And, I have actually had some piano master. I've had some piano lessons. Now, admittedly, when I was a kid, so this is, going on a few years. But I have kind of an idea in the back of my head about what it is to be learning an instrument, and I had sort of roughly an idea of what kind of, just kind of the level that I would normally expect someone to be. And not only did I have a chance to hear Kite, so he will sometimes share his his practice and his work on the stream, but not only did I get to hear him play and hear him be quite good, certainly better than what I would be after the same amount of practice. He sang, and he's good. And if that is not enough, if it's not enough that he's a good caster, and it's not enough that he's got interests that leave me saying like, oh, I really want to read that thing now, or I really want to watch that video now. He is someone incredibly giving. So whenever I hear about a disaster somewhere, whatever will happen. It usually, what tends to happen is I will hear about some tragedy striking in the world, and then it feels like Kite falls off the edge of the world for a little while, but it actually turns out that he's in that crisis zone helping people out. So I suspect there's one of two things. Either he is an actual real-life superhero, or it's possible that he works for the CIA. Because I've never actually heard him talk about his job. And the secret is, if you guys really want to know who works for like an organization like the CIA or the NSA or something like that, you ask them what they do, and they like give you a boring answer. Right? And they're like, you can never really get them to talk about work, and they always like go out of their way to make it sound really boring. And like, have you ever heard Kite talk about himself? Have you ever heard Kite talk about his job? No, it's 'cause he's working for American intelligence. But I can't say that, because like, here's the thing, because I know that Kite can like show, we've got this demonstration, right, that Kite just kind of shows up anywhere in the world, and all of a sudden people are helped and problems get solved. If I'm too insistent on his role in American security, the thing is, I know I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night and Kite's gonna be there. And like, he's gonna be super nice about how he assassinates me, right? Like, I'm not gonna have an accident outside of I'm not gonna fall from a window in a hospital or something like that. He's, he'll be nice and he'll like give me some kind of like poison or something like that. But like, I really can't like hammer this home too much. But like, just to be clear, Kite's like going around globetrotting, making the world a better place. And here I am like sitting in my underwear playing a video game, you know, wishing that I was as cool as him. And then the last thing I'll actually share is that I am a really, really skinny guy. And I, you know, like I've worked, when I worked in film, I definitely like picked up heavy things and put them down again. So like I've been in you know, varying degrees of shape. But I was mentioning how I was doing a little bit more HIIT, so high intensity interval training. And Kite, you know, doing a fantastic job of making me feel like a real heel, you know, talks enthusiastically about it and like gives me some really helpful tips. And I'm like, oh my God, that's another thing that Kite's really good at. that I, you know, it's like, this is kind of what I mean when I say that. And of course I'm being sarcastic when I say, you know, it's such a shame he's good at everything. Kite is a really, really nice guy. I actually think he's one of these people who could afford to have a really big ego about the stuff that he does and how good he is at certain things. But he's like one of the nicest, most humble people that I run into. And, you know, again, like all this stuff that I want to do and can do, you know, he's great at. So he's an entertaining streamer. He knows how to play musical instruments. He knows karate. He can do it all. He doesn't just exercise. He exercises with extra weight on him, you know, on himself. And so even though like deep down, because I'm not as good as him, I want to hate him, he's just so nice that I can't even hate him properly. He's that good at being good. So yeah, it's a real joy to have him visit the channel, because it's a chance for me to talk about somebody who's just really gives of himself, and still finds some time to, you know, to entertain us. But I am actually really happy. I'm really happy that I am still able to keep in touch with him, because he's definitely somebody who's both generous with his time, his talent, and I honestly really like the chance to be able to shout him out, because I do think he's a really great guy. But yeah, I am sorry to hear that you, from the chat, it sounds like you are currently convalescing, so I hope that you are I hope that you're feeling better soon. Dragon Ball was your motivation to work out, yeah. My motivation to work out was to try and look better naked, but that hasn't turned out so far. We come across large raised stones, the only remaining testament to a millennial cult that aligned themselves with celestial bodies. They believed that such heavenly bodies made decisions about a now vanished civilization. We pause to reflect on the past. This time I'm going to perform the blood sacrifice, just because we'll get some resources out of that, and I have enough that I can heal. So Ikat loses 2 health points. We've got 10 plants. We probably won't use the plants too much, but it's a chance for me to potentially get an upgrade. Oh, actually, one other thing I can say about the exercises. So again, I pretty much have Apple everything, so I've been using the Apple Fitness Plus app. The instructors are like, you know, universally like attractive and super positive and stuff like that. And I think this is one of the things that drives me crazy about Apple Fitness Plus, because they're always smiling and they're always encouraging. And in fact, there's 2 instructors in particular that I can think of as being like, you know, quite good at what they do, and also, you know, particularly just positive attitude, encouraging, you know, so on and so forth. Maybe there's a third. The 2 I was thinking of, so there's one instructor named Kim, there's one instructor named Bakari. Again, both both what you would think of as sort of like an ideal Apple Fitness Plus coach. And they're always smiling and encouraging me, to do my best. And I swear they are trying to kill me. But then it also occurred to me there's a British guy named Jamie Ray. He's kind of like that. But see, I think he's also like, he used to do MMA. So, at least because I know that he's like familiar with combat stuff, at least in that case, I kind of know that they're trying to, I have this like respect and knowledge that this man could totally beat me up. And so I already have that expectation of danger. Whereas, the others are, the others are more subtle about it. All right, from atop the hill, our expedition party has a good view of a vast, desolate plain. In the center rests a large blue crystal, which our instruments tell us contains Omega. However, the area will soon be the battlefield of two armies, primitive tribes that have amassed on either side of the field, weapons held aloft. They number in the many hundreds, and, as evidenced by their war cries, are determined to fight one another. We'll get our xenolinguist to negotiate peace. Our xenolinguist thinks that they can reason with the two parties. They make a number of trips across the field, sometimes narrowly avoiding the tip of a spear, but they remain resolved upon their course of action. Finally, the two camps come to an accord. There will be peace, not war. We are now free to take the Omega Crystal. Not only that, but the two elders of the rival tribes, impressed by our diplomatic actions, decide to make us additional offerings. Our mission, which has changed the fate of an entire region, has been an utter success. So, geological radar, I'm not too crazy about that, but the extra Omega is always nice. And I do need to take a minute here just to see if there's any other goodies I can pick up. There might be something behind this poison. Oh, there's a lot of gaps that I left, actually. So I think what I'll do this time, I'm going to be a little more careless in terms of crossing hazardous areas. And that's just because I've got a fairly healing-centric group. I don't think if aliens showed up when two groups were about to fight, they would not act like that. Our xenolinguist is just that good at negotiating peace. Actually, here's a question that I can ask, and I think this is probably one that a number of you are in a good position to ask. I should have asked this before, but out of those who are interested, does anybody have... So, I've seen very, very little in this genre. Does anybody have either anime or manga that they would like to recommend? Because I probably am not going to have a chance to read anytime soon, but I particularly feel that with the crowd that we have here tonight, that if I wanted to get into it, there would be a... like this is the group of experts that I would want to be guiding me on my reading and viewing. I can also talk about stuff that I've already watched before, but I think it's more interesting to hear what other people are interested in. Our expedition comes upon the hulking remains of an eviscerated ship. The silence is oppressive, as is the stillness. There is nothing here. As we gather to leave, several forms pop into view. We barely have time to register them as a small platoon of humanoid beings before they turn their weapons on us. We'll get the engineer to identify the threat. Our engineer cautiously raises their arms, signaling against any violence. Curiously, a member of the platoon also raises their arms. The engineer laughs and then explains that it is a mirrored holographic projection. Upon closer inspection, they explain that it has physical manifestations. If we had tried to fight, the device would have had the ability to harm us. Danger avoided, we salvage many components from the wreckage. Okay, so the decree is saying the Promised Neverland was pretty good. Vanguard Master says Maria the Virgin Witch. It's about a coven of witches in France during the 100 Years' War. The main protagonist, Maria, tries to summon an incubus and goes on some adventures in the attempt. Clearly a story for the whole family. I'm just trying to think. Let's go around the edge here. Something to do with space. The only thing I've really watched was Gundam. Well, it doesn't have to be about space. Sorry if I gave that impression. I'm actually, honestly, I'm just interested in like what people are most interested in. Like part of it is just a question in terms of knowing what stories people like. Because I have my own interests, but if I just sit in my own little bubble, I'm only ever really going to understand some of the stuff that like I'm interested in, and it's sometimes helpful. I don't know. I just kind of feel like if you kind of expose yourself to some of the stuff that that others are into, life's just a little bit more interesting. I'm trying to think of the best way to divide the points. All right, there we go. Everybody's healed up. Yeah, like I played World of Horror, which I'll definitely get back to. But everybody, oh god, I think I've got the name wrong. But the name that kept coming up was Junji Ito or something along those lines. So I wound up checking out one of the stories that he wrote, and I think it's called Uzumaki, which I thought was really interesting. Some incredibly, potent images in that work for sure. But like it's really, really well done. So I definitely would check out more. I actually don't even think I read the full series, now that I think of it. The great shame, I thought, is that the book that it was stored in was like just a regular book, and I really feel they should have made that a spiral bound volume. Like of any story that would be in a spiral bound volume, you'd think Uzumaki would be the one where they have one of those spines that's curled around. But yeah, like obviously that kind of story, like it's not like I would say to my younger sister, oh hey, come check this out, fun for the whole family. But like it's I don't know, like not actually. This is a funny thing. I was talking about this book that I've been reading lately. So I'm on the second story now, A Swim in the Pond in the Rain, subtitle in which 4 Russians give a master class on writing, reading, and life. And if you like his work, check out The Enigma of Amigara Fault. Okay, I will definitely check that out. I think one of the things that was interesting about this book, so the first story, I can't even remember if I had said this, but the first story that I had read was I think it's called In the Cart. Let me just double check that I got it. I know it's Chekhov that wrote it. Yeah, In the Cart. And I remember reading it, And I didn't necessarily think it was bad, but I did not... it didn't... it also didn't quite connect as much as I'd thought that the book had sort of suggested it would. And so I was wondering maybe if I'd missed something about it. But it's the nice thing about it is that because this book is not just the short stories, but it's got some like commentary on it as well. I was able to sort of read the author's sort of reasons for including it and sort of his breakdown of the story. And it was really clear to me why I reacted the way that I did to that story. And it was, I have lately been reading a lot of stuff to be either like entertained or, for escape, or otherwise just to sort of see nice things. And in the Cart does not really end well. In the Cart is not necessarily about something comforting or nice. And I am under no, stories are not under any obligation to show me something nice. And particularly if you are reading Russian short story writers, you should not be expecting nice things in it. So that was a nice little reminder. One thing, I think I talked about this. One thing I actually really like about this book, A Swim in the Pond in the Rain, is it's a little sad for me because it's reminding me how much some of my reading, just kind of my sensitivity to certain types of writing has atrophied a bit. It makes me remember some things that I used to do while reading stories that I've gotten out of practice with. But I do find that Saunders is actually quite good at sort of drawing those instincts out again. And part of it's just kind of being honest with yourself when you read a story. On the other hand, it's also clear that I've been reading a certain type of story for a while too. Like The Time Machine is a nice little fantasy. Although, I'm a little sad about what happens to Weena. So, anyways, thank you for your recommendations. Again, I'm not closing the door on recommendations. So if you have something that really speaks to you or something that you would like to recommend, I am definitely open to more recommendations. But I seem to have been vindicated in my choice to ask chat what they thought. Okay, so this one's got 6 turns. It takes 6 turns, so I can extend the life by switching it out. I mean, it's called the Yellow Hammer, so stop. Hammer time. And then I can switch this out. Yeah, why not? So that's just trying to keep my morale up for my trips, but honestly, I'm not going to have that many trips that I do. So, for those of you not familiar with this game, one of the big things you need to keep in mind is the resources available to your ship. So you need to make sure you have fuel, oxygen, hull, and that your morale is greater than 0. And you will gain some of these resources either in your storage, and as you can see, I've got a big full ship here. You do have a trade-off between equipment that you put on your ship as well as the resources that you hold on to. You'll notice that some of these resources are aligned with your different stats. So if I wanted to refuel my ship, I could use cobalt or helium, but I may want to use those for other things. So one of the ways that you can get resources is by visiting planets and mining their resources. So we were just on a garden planet. I'm actually going to go to a rocky planet so that I can mine some resources off of that first, but then we're going to go to a gas giant so that we can mine out some fuel. But that's what we've been kind of focusing on right now, is just making sure that we have enough to move on to our objective, and our objective's a bit closer than we think. So some of this may wind up being overkill, but it's nice to be prepared.
Fuel tank damage.
Okay, so we just damaged our drill. I can spend some iron to fix it, and of course we've got more than enough iron, so I'll use a little bit to repair. I'm going to do one more drill. We'll spend a little less fuel for this. And that's only just because sometimes you can get a rare element like platinum or hafnium. So I always want to take the chance. And again, all that we're really spending to do that is fuel. And we're now going to head to the gas giant, which we can use to refuel the ship.
Fuel tank low.
So, as you can see, we're already doing quite well. I'll hit it one more time with 3. Oh, that was a good one for us. So helium is worth 10 fuel, and then hydrogen is worth 2. So we got 12 fuel, but we spent 3 to get it. So that's a net of 9. So, as you can see, we're now up to 78. And if I'm in a pinch, I've got 20 units of helium, 14 units of cobalt. So cobalt actually gets me 14 fuel. And if I really need to, I can use Omega to basically max out any of the items here. But Omega is quite rare, and it'd be nice to use it for something a little more important. But we are going to continue on towards the life tree of the Alephs, and I think here, again, it's a little sparse in terms of stars, so I think I'm going to head to this system first. We've discovered a solitary base barely lit by its auxiliary generators. When we establish contact, we receive 2 messages. The first says, "Careful, you must not approach," and the other pleads, "Please help us." These contradictions leave us somewhat perplexed. Dock at the station. With caution, we send a solitary explorer to take stock of the situation. It turns out that all the inhabitants died of a terrible disease. Our companion withdraws quickly, but they have returned carrying the virus. All we can do is isolate them and try to find treatment. Oof. Like I said, this is definitely one which kicks me in sensitive parts every chance it takes. So let's there we go. Because the different star types kind of indicate the sorts of planets that you're going to run into. So as soon as I saw that this was it was a blue star that I was working with, I knew that I would have gas giants that I could mine.
Equipment damaged.
So as you can see, the risk sometimes is that you need to fix the equipment, but we've now gotten up to 100 fuel, and we only paid 30 oxygen to do so. So in this case, we'll start taking some giant strides towards our objective. Okay, so this is, these are rocky planets. Now, rocky planets may still have something useful to me for mining, so I am going to take a second here to grab what I can. Looks like there are anomalies for me to check out as well, so let's see what we can find here. Okay, so Omega and minerals, or just a regular mineral area. I do still need Omega, so we are going to do this expedition properly. I may not go to the second planet. It sort of depends how much fuel we have at the end, but this should give us a good return. Okay, so we can repair a little bit of the hull, and silicon's good for oxygen. Same story here, and we don't have any use for the iron. Okay, so we need to bring engineers for the for the objective, so that means Pagistan comes along. Let's try and get something. Let's actually go for the extra raw minerals whenever something's explored. And we are going to need a xenolinguist still, so we can bring Azumame or Iket Ia. There we go. So where I can, because I am trying to get to this objective, I'm probably going to spend, like, I'd probably prefer to spend a little bit less time on these expeditions. But it's a bit like what we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, or maybe not the beginning of the stream, but it's a little bit like what we were talking about with the game This War of Mine. It is helpful to kind of, until you know that the game is over, it's good to act in a way that is consistent with, like, you know, there being more things to do. So the one thing I don't want to do is imagine that the scenario that I'm moving on to is the very last one, that I drain down my oxygen and my hull and everything that I need to its absolute last level, and then sort of wake up and find, oh, okay, I've actually got 5 more steps to do on this quest, and there's no way I can complete them now because I've already drawn down all my resources. Now, it does mean that, as far as time is concerned, obviously I'm spending some time walking around a planet seeing if I can pick up some goodies. It does look like we're going to have to pay a bit in terms of health, but let's just grit our teeth and try not to get too damaged. A large dilapidated vessel of unknown origin lies before our expedition party. It is made of many small compartments like jail cells, and we believe that it must have been a prison ship heading to the Mausoleum of Eternity. As we search for usable relics, something activates and we find ourselves trapped in the cells. We are captives of the ship. So we'll get the engineer to hack the ship's systems, we'll get Pagistan to do that. Using an emergency access panel, our engineer manages to hack the ship's system. With relative ease, they reset the security settings and open our cells. We come across some useful items, perhaps left behind during a hasty evacuation. In the end, this fraught expedition has turned out well. So we got some tweezers, maybe not the most exciting thing to walk away with, but it's better than nothing. As you've noticed from some of the trades that we've been doing recently, it doesn't even matter if I have a direct use, so this is our objective. It doesn't even matter if we have a direct use for the item that we find. Sometimes it's just enough that we're able to trade away the item. So it's particularly good news to find these minerals. The minerals are something that I'll probably wind up investigating that area later. The minerals are the most likely way for me to wind up with the rare materials that I need for the ship. At least when we were looking for the hafnium, we had much better luck with the minerals we found on sites like this. All right, Yggdrasil. Our readings lead us to an extraordinary sight, an alien tree of unknown biology with a trunk and branches that extend 800 meters into the sky. Our instruments lead us to believe there is a rich seam of resources at the very top of the huge form. How can we fetch what we desire? Well, we'll analyze the tree. Our engineer performs a scan of the tree and discovers that its internal network transports a sap mixed with omega, perhaps extracted from a source hundreds of meters underground. They manufacture a siphon, and we safely extract large quantities of the precious substance. The expedition has been a total success. So the Omega's nice. So there's a few reasons why Omega's helpful. One thing I failed to appreciate was apparently when you use those save sections, that winds up costing an Omega each time. But you've also noticed that whenever I travel through the black hole, I need to spend an Omega to go through it. There were also some other items that I had which cost Omega to use. But the other big thing is that it's a great get-out-of-jail-free card. So, you know, if I lose an important character, I can resurrect them with Omega. If I have had bad luck finding planets with oxygen on it and I've run out of resources, I can use Omega to replenish my oxygen reserves. So the thing that's nice about it is that while I prefer to play well and to not, not have the bad things happen to me, having enough Omega in the ship is going to make sure that I'm not going to lose the game for a silly reason. So cute. Our expedition group has discovered an incredibly adorable species native to this planet. It resembles a cross between Earth's rabbits and cats. They love the treats and caresses we give them, but what begins as a pleasant surprise soon turns worrying. The critters come running to us in the hundreds, fighting one another to get near us. We soon find ourselves surrounded, unable to move. Analyze their social structure. Our xenolinguist, well-versed in communication with sentient and sensitive creatures alike, understands that their behavior is not affection, but instead tension. We must be on the verge of crossing some territory of extreme importance to them. Rather than continuing forwards, we decide to walk back the way we came. The critters pull back, leaving us room to breathe. They watch our leaving attentively. Later, a single creature creeps out of the underbrush towards us, pushing a trinket with its nose. It seems that we are being given a gift. All right, there we have it. So at this point, we just want to get back to the ship and unload all our goodies. I don't think there's anything else for us. Now, you don't necessarily automatically heal at the end of an expedition. You do have time between completing an expedition and when you can go on the next one. But it's because I have a med bay that my characters heal. And if my characters are sufficiently low on health, I'm not necessarily going to be able to... I'm not necessarily going to be able to have them at full health by the time we do another expedition. So because I've already got, I have the skill points available, I've got a healing skill, I always like to take a little bit of time to try and get everybody at their best. Pagustan may still make level 4 in time for the final encounter. Again, these we use, mostly we're just going to use these for trade if I have the opportunity. It's really the minerals and the Omega that I wanted. And even with the Omega, I might actually wind up not needing it after a while because we're at 17. You can only stack 20 in a location. So once I hit 20 Omega, unless I want to start using it for literally anything, I may even just start skipping opportunities to get Omega. But yeah, we're full on copper, we're full on gold, we're full on thorium. So there's a lot of these I sort of just wind up tossing out most of the stuff that I get. But again, I am looking for platinum, I am looking for hafnium. Every once in a while you'll get something like silicon, which you can use to boost your oxygen. But this is not a bad example of why we collect the number of minerals that we do, because the majority of this is not useful to me. I'm already at 100 hull. The silicon will be nice for oxygen, but I got an Omega and a platinum, and because I only have 2 platinum, that's actually a really big deal for me, right? I've increased the amount of platinum I have by 50%. And of course, my Omega is such that unless I start using it, I'm really only ever going to be able to get 2 more before I hit the limit of my stack. So overall, we're in good shape. I can't even remember if I think we drilled here already, right? Yeah. So I suppose the question is, do I want to use up my fuel on the other rocky planet, or do I... Yeah, you know what, let's take a shot. So this one I can't do an expedition even if there was a location to scan because, well, that's not entirely true. I could bring the people who haven't been on an expedition, but there's basically a 2-system cooldown. I'm not 100% sure how the rules, like I don't know what's the state of the universe to make it that apparently these people get tired for 2, interstellar jumps. But they do, so. All right, so we'll just go, basically I just want to go to the system that I can travel to that's closest to the the system I need.
Fuel tank low.
So because my fuel is low, I'm a little less inclined to visit these rocky planets, especially because I can't go on an expedition. So we'll head to the life tree. It's going to cost us 10 fuel. In the worst case scenario, we need to refuel using some of my emergency reserves, but that's why I have those reserves. Okay. Greetings, Nick. The whole Aleph civilization, past, present, and future, rejoices in this moment. I see you've been expecting us. I thought greater Alephs were transcended Alephs, that you leave us to become gods. Is that right? I can't concentrate. Even for me, there are too many things in my mind, too many visions. Greetings, Greater Aleph. I am pleased we could meet. You are the only sentient being whose enlightenment approaches my own. The Greater Alephs have all transcended. They have become gods, like the Judge Architect. Everyone except me. I was expecting you, because we knew you would come back to us. You sacrificed your own transcendence to remain? Did the others force you? I am the others. Every Greater Aleph is all Greater Alephs. Our destiny lies with yours. By finding us, you have proven it. Together let us end the tyranny of the God Cubes and allow all beings to emancipate themselves. Let us give them back their own transcendence. Let life complete its spiritual migration of the universe. Allow us to find ourselves together at the end of time. How do we go about making that happen? The God Cubes are sentient machines that have achieved and surpassed their singularity moment. However, they remain computer systems, prisoners of their logic and core programming. To neutralize them, we need their source code and an immaterial, a creature of energy capable of infiltrating the God Cube network. Update. My status as network administrator is partially restored. I may soon regain access to the God Cube source code. Thanks, Newton. That's a great help. Can you tell us more about the immaterials? For millions of years, the God Cubes have been systematically hunting down the immaterials. They were marked by the God Cubes, condemned for genocide and exterminated. At least one remains, though, locked away in the Mausoleum of Eternity. I have marked its location on your galactic map. After freeing the immaterial from the Mausoleum of Eternity, you will have to cross the Veil of Infinity. At last, our quest once more has come around to the Mausoleum of Eternity. But what is this Infinity Veil you speak of? It is the limit of our universe. Oh my god, so if I wanted, apparently I could take over this ship. It's totally a jerk thing to do though, so I'm not going to. Okay, so 66 light years away. Now, I can actually use the black hole to travel, but the first thing I want to do here is actually travel to the Blue Giant and refuel. Have to head off for the night. Thanks for the stream and the great discussions again. No problem, Vanguard Master. Thank you very much for hanging out. As always, good luck with the work that you're doing on your project, and I'm glad to hear that you're having, company over and otherwise living a life other than your development life. I think that kind of balance is important because if we don't have lives, we don't have anything to say in our works. But I hope you have a great night, and we'll catch you in the next one. Yeah, I'm always happy to hear about your progress. So this is kind of like what I've been doing before. The one resource that I'm always short on is fuel, and it's partly just because I've been doing very large trips. I can't remember if I've been to this gas giant or this gas giant first. But the aim here is really just to try and get my fuel up so that I can...
Equipment damaged.
so I don't have to spend a lot of time working on the next step. So I've got lots of fuel, so I am going to take a... So this black hole may not turn out. I know I can at least make it to this one. But basically, because my ship... Actually, my ship has got a special weapon on it. I can show you. So I've got here the wormhole generator, a technology that allows a ship to travel from one black hole to another black hole within a range of 50 light years. But I also have a weapon called the Death Seed, a terrifying weapon that harnesses the strange energies of Omega to forcibly increase the mass of a star, causing it to collapse into a black hole. So if I wanted, what I could do, any system that I'm in, I could actually turn the sun into a black hole and use that to travel up to 50 light years away. Now the thing is that it would cost 1 Omega to turn the sun into a black hole, and then I would also need to use an Omega to travel through the black hole. So it's an expensive way of traveling. But if I want to cross very large distances, if I can find a black hole, it's certainly something that I want to take advantage of. So that's why we're going to go through here. There is a morale penalty for it, but... Okay, so... Yeah, it's worth it. That's still further than I could get otherwise. Okay. The other thing that's nice about this is it gives me a little bit of a view in terms of the stars. So I think if I were to try going like through a straight line, I'd find that there's sort of a gap. But if I sort of go out and to the left, I should be able to manage it. It's also worth noting that if I know that there won't be any black holes, you know, until we're basically at the Mausoleum of Eternity. So I'm gonna have to work it all out. You can end all the lives in the system to create a stop on the tube. Exactly. That is exactly what what my character does, and it feels completely morally justified in doing so. Now, if I wanted some oxygen, I could stop by this white dwarf or the yellow dwarf. But again, we've got quite a bit in reserve. So I'm actually going to go the furthest distance that I can. And it may not pay off.
Oxygen
Okay, yeah.
low.
So in this case, we've wound up in a white star. So there's basically one of everything on the planets. And the nice thing,
Oxygen low.
I think what I'm going to do in this case, I'm actually just going to land and get the oxygen. I'm going to get the fuel from the gas giant, but I think I'm done doing expeditions for a little while. So refuel the oxygen, then we just take off. I realize it's maybe not going to be the most exciting thing because the expeditions are kind of fun to like watch me do the some of the story events and that, but I'm kind of interested in seeing what happens once we make it to the mausoleum. So I will potentially make certain stops in other locations, but 28 light years is not that far away for me, so... Okay, so if I want more fuel... There's always a hull cost to parking outside one of these gas giants, so I don't necessarily want to do this recklessly, but I do find it helpful to fuel up. Okay, so it doesn't really matter where we go at this point. We know we're going to make it to our destination. Do I want to go to the civilized planet? Yeah, why not? So we always have bad luck whenever I go on the expedition, or go exploring, but let's give it a try. Everything indicates the presence of a civilization on the planet, but we come across absolutely nowhere, anywhere in the city streets or country lanes. The soil is dried out and the sun beats down on us. Quickly, it becomes difficult to spot any shady areas to help ward off sunstroke. A few crew members are becoming delirious when suddenly, by our feet, a manhole cover pops open. Descending into the cool depths, we finally find what we were looking for. The sewer people saved us. Man, yeah, they really love... I don't think I've ever had anything good happen to me on the civilized planets. Now again, if I wanted, I could switch out... switching out Pagistan for Gaan would not be a bad idea. The only thing I'm a little worried about is that Gaan has 7 health, whereas Pagistan has 11. So in this case, I think I'm just going to leave the crew intact. Even though they're a lower level, I think they've got a little bit of a better lineup of skills that I want. But we might be able to get something in trade. So a lot of oxygen will be helpful here. That way I won't need to worry about other alternatives. Actually, come to think of it, let's just load up on hydrogen as well. Then we don't need to worry about... Okay, so I might wind up giving up some of this stuff if I can't make it happen, but... Okay, yeah. I definitely gave up too much. Yeah, honestly good enough. Okay, so. Part of this is just, you know, filling up what I can. I didn't realize that cobalt was so expensive. So again, majority of the minerals aren't really all that important to me, but it does let me get some repairing in. And, you know, after that trade, we're not doing too bad for oxygen and such. And on top of that, now I get to play around with the plants. And the plants that I don't use, I can convert into oxygen. So we may actually be leaving this world with full amount in all of our stats. Okay, so I think for these, this is a pretty easy call. We just switch out the old ones with the new ones. So the Bellavalia, 5 morale every 6 trips. Yeah, that works for me. And then we'll recycle these for oxygen. And as predicted, fuel, oxygen, hull, morale, all 100s. We'll give up some of it when we take off, but I'm not going to kick up a fuss about that. On to the Mausoleum of Eternity. So this is where we were originally heading at the start of the game, and our ship was attacked, and the Archon was freed. Oh man. The Mausoleum of Eternity is enormous. Who built it? My kind, the Lords, by order of the God Cubes. Why call it the mausoleum if it's if it's really a prison? It is a mausoleum for civilizations. When the God Cubes exterminate a race of beings, they place a single individual here. We should have survived here a century ago. If we hadn't failed, none of this would have happened. Sorry, we should have arrived here a century ago. If we hadn't failed, none of this would have happened. Sorry, I need to sneeze. True, but our failure allowed us to finally see the true evil of the God Cubes. At what price? Our understanding required so much death and suffering. Alright, have to head to bed, Night Chalk. Enjoy the game and the stream. Thank you very much, Kite. And again, I'm really, really happy to see you again. I know you've been incredibly busy with your absolutely not protecting the homeland from enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, I guess it wouldn't be domestic if it was the CIA. So, but no, I know you've been so busy, and I'm utterly delighted to get a chance to have. Well, you know, I like talking with you, but like honestly, a chance to be able to just stream for you is great because I get so much out of watching your broadcasts. But I hope you have a great night. I hope you feel better soon, and you know, we'll be in touch. But please take care between now and when I get a chance to talk with you again. Right. At what price? Our understanding required so much death and suffering. Good question. I don't think we'll live long enough to learn an answer, though. Despite it all, I'm still honored to be part of this crew. And I to call you an officer of this ship, whom I can rely on. And I release the immaterial, if you wish. Sorry, I can release the immaterial if you wish. Do you think you can bypass the security systems? They are less than nothing to me. Then please, by all means. Achievement unlocked, one of each. Okay, so my only option here is to take off. Oh right, we need to go through the Infinity Gate or whatever it was. Welcome to the crew, oh immaterial. I am free! The exquisite softness of feeling the flow of time once more. The clarity of a new thing. A member of our crew, a Greater Aleph, freed you. You have my thanks. Now I will be able to join my sun, swim in its heart, and wait for the end of time. As wonderful as that sounds, we were hoping you could help us with something. What do you mean? I have thanked you, but I am to serve you. Is it a false freedom you offer me?
Yeah.
We are only asking if you would help us stop the God Cubes. The God Cubes! I despise them. They killed what we are. They killed our star poems. I am alone. Because of them, I am the last. I fear they want to inflict the same fate upon others. Help us so that we can free everyone from their tyranny. I see. Observing the proposition from this angle, it deserves reflection. We need your help if we are to forge a new future. Then wherever you choose to go, it will be in freedom. I am with you. In that case, we are going to the Veil of Infinity. Alright, 73 light years, not the shortest distance that I've had to travel in this game, but we should still be able to manage it. And I'm definitely going to try beelining towards it in this case. I do see a black hole a little bit ahead. Strange light. One of the moons orbiting a neighboring planet shines with a very strange light. Sometimes it looks as though it's flashing. Could it be a signal, or is our fatigue playing tricks on our minds? When we go to investigate the strange phenomenon, we discover an abandoned ship on the far side of the moon. It appears the wreck was interacting with the moon's atmosphere, causing the flashing lights we observed. Ship has been detected in the system. Okay, so I figure I wouldn't normally have checked out anything in the system here, but normally with the ships, at a minimum, we're able to dismantle the gear and get some cool stuff. Oh, wow. So yeah, I don't personally see a lot of use in taking this ship. Its base stats, the only thing that's really better than what we already have would be its ecosystem. But if we disassemble everything and then load all the cargo, or try to load all the cargo, this basically just gives me an opportunity to fill up on some more resources, and it just means we don't need to travel to another planet. So, 65 light years away, again, we'll try a black hole where we can. But what I'm really trying to do here is do big, large steps, regardless of where the... Yeah, we'll definitely be able to take 1 or 2 black holes to where we need to go. A gigantic astral manta roams the system we have just entered. As it crisscrosses the system, it appears to be on the hunt for something. These creatures are known to ingest huge amounts of stellar waste, turning it into valuable minerals. It would be interesting to follow in its wake, but the speed required might be dangerous. So the last time we did this, something bad happened. So in this case, we're just going to wait. Before resuming our journey, we decide to wait until the creature is very far away. It turns out to be a profitable decision as we find concentrated clusters of minerals strewn along our path. We hasten to collect these prizes. Oh, cool. So pretty unlikely we'll get fuel or oxygen out of this. I think it's impossible for us to get fuel, but we might get some oxygen out of silicon. There it is. But again, in an emergency, we can always use Omega or my helium reserves. So I'm not too worried about our fuel levels. The real reason we're here is because of our wormhole generator. We've got enough Omega to be able to travel through it, and we definitely know that we're going to get closer to our destination using it. Oh god, that's so close. So it's really just a question in terms of how much fuel it's going to take me. So we will go to the unknown system, because again, we've got a ton of hydrogen if it comes down to it. Yeah, I mean, we have enough to make the trip, so...
Fuel tank low.
The Veil of Infinity, at last. We're on the edge of the universe, between 2 different realities. There must be several realities, then. We may be the first peoples to set eyes on the limits of one. See, Nix? How we are all just grains of sand in these immense oceans of time. When I think of all we had to go through to get here, I wish I could share this discovery with this organization, my people. You speak as if the journey is over, but there is one last step. What do you mean, Judge Architect? I feel a voice calling me and urging me to cross the veil. I would have to give up my powers to create passage. But that would mean... Yes, I will have to relinquish my transcendence. But you risk death. There must be another way. I chose transcendence in order to access infinite power. In doing so, I destroyed a world. My struggles, which you cannot understand, have become insignificant. Accessing power means climbing to the top of a pyramid, and then, forevermore, only looking down. Becoming divine means giving up all links to others, is accepting an inability to share anything with anyone. Opening the veil is the only meaningful thing left for me to do. I think I understand, in what little way I can at least. We will be indebted to you forever. Spare me your compassion. Do not see it as a sacrifice, but rather as the culmination of my transcendence, my final ascension. Our answers lie behind the veil. Let us not waste any more time. We gotta play Thus Spoke Zarathustra now? Boom, 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 boom. Sorry. What is that? The Void Surveyor. It is a being trapped between two planes of reality. It exists everywhere and nowhere, observing all that is. It's immense. Silence, please. The Void Surveyor is explaining to me how to stop the God Cubes. It seems that to accomplish our goal, I must merge with Newton. Query: is my input relevant to this situation? Of course, but Newton, without you, we can't stop the God Cubes. Query: what is the personal benefit in this course of action? Nothing, really, except preventing the destruction of the entire galaxy. Are you programmed to feel compassion? Answer: negative. Analysis: binding myself to the body of the immaterial would allow for boundless travel throughout the galaxy. Elaboration: such freedom is appealing after a millennium of captivity. Result: I shall comply. You may not have been programmed for compassion, Newton, but I suspect you have evolved it. Are you ready? Affirmative. Farewell, humans. Thank you again for freeing me. Analysis: I am changing. Result: freedom. Goodbye, my friends? Yes, friends. I am glad to learn the meaning of this word. I hope our paths will cross again. You've come far for such insignificant beings. I'm impressed, and that is rare. Before you go, I will answer one question, if you wish. Are you really the Void Surveyor? Yes. Really? Yes. Really? Yes. Thank you. Come again. Sorry. Go on, Captain. How often do you get to get an answer directly from a god? I know I'm not asking this one. What will happen to the Judge Architect? It will become the seed of a new human era. I see. I must go before the veil closes once more. What do you mean? I have my own mission to complete. The child I hold is the key. Where do you plan to go? Where the Void Surveyor resides, in another universe. Such is my destiny. That baby can't possibly survive the journey. You are mistaken, Captain. Each universe has its own rules. The Judge Architect, is that it? Reborn? My time here is ended. This little being has great things to accomplish, and I must usher it to the threshold of its new life. Good luck, and farewell, humans. Goodbye, Greater Aleph. Thank you for everything. Captain? After all we've been through, Sergei, I think you can call me Nix. Nix, what do we do now? I think I'm going to meet up with some old acquaintances, see if I can make myself useful. Are you talking about the Brotherhood of Crows? Apparently you know the details of my life better than I thought. I was planning to see them too. I'd like to find my kind again, to renew ties, now that the God Cubes are gone. After everything, you want to rejoin the Brotherhood? Is that even possible? I'm sure they'll tell me that one way or another, but I understand if you don't want to travel with me any further. I'll find other means. We all made mistakes. We all have blood on our hands. After all we've seen and experienced, I'm letting go of old grudges. I hope my former brethren feel the same. And you, Sergei, what are your plans? Should I drop you off somewhere in particular? I'm going to return to the Ark and see if I can make myself useful. And set a course for the Ark. Sergei, I deeply regret what I did to your colony. Perhaps I can persuade the Lords to return. No need. I plan to create a happy and prosperous place to live, without needing to rely on either the God Cubes or the Lords. I'm confident you'll succeed, but if you do need anything, please know that you can always count on me, Science Officer Sergei. I'll hold you to that. I know we can reconstruct the Ark without the help of the gods. That doesn't mean we won't need to find every pair of mortal hands we can find. Onboard computer. Choice of ship name. O M A D. Ship history. Mining route between the mythical Earth and Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon. Ship configured. Awakening in 30 Earth years. See you soon. Game over, and thus Nyx, having visited 1,000 worlds and pierced the veil between galaxies, sets out for more familiar territories. Within the Confederation's borders, she will no doubt encounter the Brotherhood of Crows again, joining others long involved in the struggle to lift humanity towards transcendence. So I'm not 100% sure why it has a continue option here. Let's take a quick second and look at these achievements. I will confess I'm a little confused about the ending. I feel like there is some significance to that I either am missing because I'm that far away from the like the intro, or there's a reference to the earlier games that I might be missing. So I just want to take a second to go over some of these achievements to see if I might be able to shed some light on what we just saw. Surely I can see my friend activity. Okay, so Firelight's Hideout, AH046, one of each, AH048, doesn't mean anything. Ultimate Question, AH049, Adrift, AH50, Stella Nox, AH003, in the Lion's Den, AH036. So that like means absolutely nothing to me. Is that a mistake, or is that just the way that they classify these things? Ah, it just doesn't have... Okay. There's one last thing I'm going to try with the game then. Use this combination subsequent games Scholar. I'm just going to look up the community page while the credits run. Sorry for the silence. I'm just taking a look at some of the discussions. Achievement unlocked so long, and thank you for all the fish. Thank you. So, the developer says this is apparently one of the better endings that you can get. But I'm not 100% sure what happened. Yes, I'm always happy to see a Hitchhiker's reference. Okay, so here's one thing that I'm going to do to try and get some understanding about what happened. I'm going to... Let's try playing the tutorial. I just want to see the introduction again to see if I can make a little more sense about what happened. Okay, Century 21, the Earth's sun suddenly and inexplicably extinguished. Humanity flees a dying Earth aboard great arcs, seeking refuge on distant and isolated worlds. After journeys that span thousands of years, some arcs succeeded in creating new permanent civilizations. Others lose their way and disappear into the silent oblivion of the stellar void. Humanity once thought of itself as the only intelligent species in the galaxy. They were mistaken. The entire galaxy was governed by the God Cubes, all-powerful entities that have taken it upon themselves to unite all species, abolish violence, and end the concept of territoriality. But not everyone worships these beings. A persuasive genetic chameleon, a member of the Lord's race, calling itself Archon, rises up against its own creators and vows to put an end to the God Cube's reign. The Archon's rebellion has the desired effect. It destabilizes the order established by the God Cubes. After a fierce pursuit, the Archon is captured. It is entrusted to Nyx, captain of the Vanguard, to be brought to the Mausoleum of Eternity, a prison world. The Vanguard and its crew are now approaching their destination. They're about to accomplish their important mission. So... Am I... Surely I am not the only one confused by what happens in that ending.
No.
Equipment damaged. Fuel tank low.
I'm guessing, yeah, at this point... Yeah, I don't think this is going to help me understand what's going on. So I do apologize that I'm not able to explain that ending. I will admit, I liked the ride. I actually definitely thought the closing moments of the game were some of the strongest. If anything, I kind of wish that there was maybe a little bit more of that through some of the stuff that I wound up doing. But I guess it's a little bit of a so I guess there's two things that I can say, which is I'm a little I don't really know how I feel about the developer. So the specific thing the developer wrote in the discussion forum was let me where is it? So Thunderchild writes on May 29th, I got the Stellus Nox ending and it took me to the same game over screen type as when I run out of fuel or oxygen. I have no idea if that's the good ending or the bad ending or the neutral ending. I did as much side questing as I could find. I still have the continue from my last save available to me. I don't know if I should continue exploring around with my existing save or start fresh with a new file. Right now, I'm just looking to compare notes with anybody else who's finished the game, and I'm curious how to get different endings if they exist, which, looking at the achievement, seems to be the case. Developer responds, hello, there are indeed several endings. You had one of the best, but you could have had an even better one. To get the other endings, the best is to start from the beginning. Indeed, depending on where your last save is, you may have already passed the branches allowing for other endings. I hope I've answered your question. And I guess, like, I understand why developers kind of want to do this, but I kind of get annoyed when I see responses like this. Because I'll admit I'm quite confused by this ending, and I feel like there's information. So the thing is, I just don't know if I'm missing something from the story that I should have been paying attention to, or if this is a reference to some of the other out there stuff. And it seems that there may not be enough. Like, one of the problems might be that if you've got something like, Dark Souls, you've got a really active community that maintains these wikis and does these these community resources which sort of help people gain an understanding of the game and the world and help you sort of figure stuff out. But I don't think, like, I'm looking and there doesn't really seem to be that much for out there. And so what it comes down to is, like, I sort of, they're sort of saying, yeah, I encourage you to play the game again, but I'm like, but, like, is this going to be worth the time? Like, it'd be sort of nice to kind of have some ideas about where I might have had another, an alternative to go. And as much as I enjoyed the journey, I'm not entirely sure there's enough here for me to really want to just go in and experience some of the stuff that I'd seen before. Now, with that in mind, I'm actually quite happy that I played this game, and I think when they make some updates to this, I would actually like to go back in and play this again. But I will confess, the one thing I'd really like to see more than anything is an oh, actually, sorry, there's a Discord here, so let me join the Discord really quick and see if I may have a bit more luck. Hmm. Um. Yeah, there's nothing in the Discord either. Yeah, so I guess that's the only thing. Like, I really like the journey. I thought the ending sections were actually some of the strongest in the game, but I'm quite confused about what happened at the ending. And I wish I knew more, but I'm not really sure that the game's given me what I need to understand. And I think I think that's a shame. Um, so I'm obviously, first of all, I'm very grateful that I was given a chance to share this game with you. It did seem that there were a number of you that were into this type of game. So I give this a bit of I think I'd probably feel okay giving a recommendation for this, but I'd maybe just give it with the caveat that either you need to pay attention more than I did, or you may need knowledge of the previous game. And I think depending on how invested you are in the story, the confusion I felt at the ending may be that may be enough of a deal break. Like, I don't know, like, obviously for Mass Effect, people got really upset at that ending, even though I actually quite liked it, at least the one I got. And I don't even necessarily mind weird endings for things, but I'm kind of wondering, like, just what the hell happened. And obviously, if you feel like you put a bunch of time in and you'd like things to sort of be wrapped up in a nice, tidy way, I can see that this might be a really off-putting way of ending the game. That would maybe be the big concern that I have. I think, I talked about the bugs and all of that at the beginning, but I'm glad that we spent this time, and I'm a little maybe concerned at the time that I spent tonight, because I do have a lot of stuff that I need to do still. But I'm reasonably happy that we've been able to finish another thing on my list. I will say, because I like games like this, I will probably get back to Starflight sooner rather than later, but I think next Friday I'm probably going to wind up doing Quake, because we'll be able to finish that one as well. We're on the 4th episode for that. And all of a sudden, my schedule starts seeming to free up. Maybe I'll do a little bit of Imperium's Greek Wars. Maybe I'll do some of these other things. But I don't know. I'm going to try and find somebody to host. But does anybody, while I'm taking a look for someone to host, does anybody have any thoughts on this game, or thoughts on that ending, or anything to share? I mean, like I said, this is definitely one of the times where, as far as spoilers or knowledge is concerned, I'm definitely feeling like, now's a good time to share if you have any insights, because I'm lost. Yeah, well, the credits are what got me the so long and thanks for all the fish ending, or achievement, which I'm happy about. But yeah, like, this is the problem, right? Like, when I see an ending like that, it really does make me feel like I wasn't paying attention at an important item. Um, but it may just be that it's unclear. And if that's the case, like, I'll just go on Steam and I'll ask the question. But um, I will confess, like, it's a bit of a mystery. But I'll take a look. I suppose the best that I could say is this is the one drawback, is that any discussion I have to have about Out There is going to have to it's going to have to wait until I'm playing something other than Out There, because my efforts to try and inform myself about what was going on were fruitless. And so, I got to wrap up and we'll pass it off to someone else tonight. And that's a shame, because I actually think the game deserves a little bit better than that. But unfortunately, that's what I've been left with. Now, I think we've got W. Shand streaming tonight, or Will Shand, sorry, is how he goes by now. He's definitely quite different from what I originally hosted. I actually have no idea what he is playing. It looks like it's an FMV game. There's nobody playing Out There, unfortunately, so I can't do much as far as any Out There hosting is concerned. But it was a good game for me to talk over, which is why I'm here. Thank you, Tikri. Yeah, I'm happy to share chats and all of that. But yeah, W. Shan is playing a FMV game. He's definitely a fun guy to watch. He's a partnered streamer, definitely a bigger streamer than who I normally host. He's somebody who I knew in Vancouver, so I'm curious. He's definitely quite good at finding extremely unusual games to play, and just sort of share the sort of stuff that you might find in like the bottom percentile of Steam. So I'm going to leave you in his capable hands. I have no idea what you're in store for, but I hope you enjoy it. I will not be streaming Monday most likely, but I will be back Wednesday for more Phantom Brigade, and next week we will probably be playing some Quake. But as always, I can announce that stuff on Twitter. I hope you all have a wonderful long weekend. Thank you very much for sharing this game with me, and we'll see you Wednesday.